Hook, this is stopping the scroll. I'll use TikTok as an example because it's probably the commonality in the room. Scroll, 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 scroll. Oh, what pattern interrupt, what thing, either visually or audibly or on screen, is going to stop me from infinitely scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or etc. I redistributed it on short form, one without captions, one with captions. The one without captions got 100 views, the one with captions got 1,100 views. It's the same video. Done is better than perfect, and posting a lot is powerful because you can work out what happens. To quote Gary Vaynerchuk from his new book, you should market to get better at marketing. It's the market will tell me in views, reactions, shares, sales, etc. what's working. No one really cares who you are. That's why I didn't start this conversation with, hello, my name's Colton. I wanted to get the basics or help you understand the basics of marketing before we start. So can I just get a show of hands? Has anyone read, listened, or watched something on social media or the internet today? This is an opportunity for you to have either marketed what you do, how you do it, why you do it, or been marketed to. By the fact that you've all consumed content at least once today, means you're in that marketing system. Now this is quite basic, but then the question becomes, well, what do we create? How do we create it? The commonalities for me, in 95% of cases, whenever I have a one-to-one conversation, I work with businesses, etc., their hurdles are, in most cases, not knowing what to create, not having the time to create it, or not knowing specifically what to create it about as a whole, right? So the first part of this workshop has been designed in such a way for you guys to really troubleshoot what you feel is your hurdles. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time about spelling because I'll probably get some spellings wrong, but just quickly around the room, what is your main hurdle right now with either creating content for what you do or utilizing AI in that process? So standing out. Okay, yeah. So it has that feel of AI, yeah? Okay. How to use AI. Anything else? Confidence is a really common one, but it doesn't sound like that's really the issue for the room necessarily. So that would be content pillars. So what you're talking about there is content pillars. So what are your specific pillars that you're looking to build? So I'll use myself as an example. For this moment right now, I have two main pillars. Podcast, what's missing in marketing today, and Christmas promotions or service-based stuff. So it's kind of three in some ways. This would be counted under service, right? Because I sell knowledge, I sell teaching, but also I sell the application of that teaching if you don't have enough time to do it yourself. The key whenever you do any marketing, before you start, is firstly have an overarching strategy that will help your bottom line. So that's why everyone does marketing, right? We want to sell more. That's the honest truth. No one's going to be here and go, yeah, I would love to spend £1,000 and then get nothing back, right? But the reason why in most cases, in my experience, why people don't have that is, I would probably say this. So they're semi-inconsistent. So they do that example that Johnny gave, which was, we're going to post really good when we're not busy, because we've got loads of time and nothing else to do. So we're going to post 5 to 10 times one day, then nothing for 2 weeks, then 10 times again because I went, shit, I forgot. Or life got in the way, etc. Right?
But I think the biggest thing for us is the standard.
Yeah. Okay. Standing out is, I'll do that next actually. That's quite simple once you understand how that works. So very quickly, this is mostly video, but the same is true of written content, etc. Whenever you format your content, it should follow this structure, right? You've got 3 chunks, okay? Hook, this is stopping the scroll, right? Scroll, I'll use TikTok as an example because it's probably the commonality in the room. Scroll, 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 scroll. Oh, what pattern interrupt, what thing, either visually or audibly or on screen, is going to stop me from infinitely scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or etc. Right? This in most cases is roughly 3 to 5 seconds of your, again, video. If it was a blog post or something like that, it would be your headline and then your top 2 lines. If you do this wrong, you will not get someone to stop. Right? I'll go into depth in a second on what you could use here as ideas, but then you'll have a level of, so your body of content, so this could be, in most cases, value-led for me, and then a call to action. here, right? So when we create content, we want a journey to happen, right? Step 1, get them to stop the scroll. We'll go into depth in that in a second. Step 2, what do you want to talk to them about? What's the objective that they're trying to do? If it's a piece of educational content, like this, for example, then I might have a captivating hook that positions a question that I'm then going to answer. But I'm going to first say, well, this is the solution that you're trying to create. Followed by, as short as you can, because attention spans are dwindling, etc., gets to the point in the nicest way possible. No one really cares who you are, right? That's why I didn't start this conversation with, hello, my name's Colton, and you don't give a shit, you don't care, right? The bit they do care about is how are they going to make their life, the viewer's life, more entertained, more educated, or both. Hopefully, after today, you'll understand how to do that, and hopefully, I hope, today will be that valuable for you. So you should be entertained, you should be educated, right?
Just on that, sorry, Colton.
Yeah, of course.
Every piece of content you've got on TikTok has to follow that. We've started getting good reactions, say, on funny content. It's got no call to action on it.
The only...
Would you say that that's still valuable?
So if I put my hand here and ignore the call to action, then yes, that would be true. Every single piece of content has to have a hook, because you aren't going to stop the scroll. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. It could just be like, this is my opening line. So the things I'm focusing on for podcast clips, for example, is what's the first line of the clip, right? And because you'll see it as text, you're going to go, oh, so one that did really well was from Maddie's podcast a little while ago, and I was talking about how did I not become a drug dealer because I was dyslexic. So the opening line was, I'm surprised I'm not a drug dealer. So if you saw that on social, you're probably like, hold on, what the fuck? But then I gave the context, right, straight away, here. So ideally, it should follow this format, yes, in every post.
So you would say for us to stop messing around and spending half an hour filming a Jet 2 on trend TikTok with no value?
So this is mostly for thought leadership. I will come on to trends in a second, because trends is a little bit different, and it depends on where it sits in the funnel as a whole, overarching, but this is mostly focused around B2B thought leadership stuff, but you could also do it for everything you do as well, because if you follow this format, it's a known format, right? We were talking about marketing funnels yesterday. This is a mini marketing funnel that then leads on to so this could just be, so for example, a lot of the content I did for this event was, here's the thing I'm going to talk about, here's the value I'm going to add, hey, if you would like to see more like this, come here today. Yeah. Happy days. Right?
Or try and blend the trend in almost, like the Jet 2,
yeah.
We could have finished it with, come and grab your pint here,
yeah.
It's happy hour.
So it doesn't need to necessarily be, especially at the start, you don't necessarily need to follow this format. It's being aware that this is the ideal format, and then using it in the content where possible. When you specifically look at trending, so on TikTok, it's kind of controversial in some ways, because some people think, yes, you should trend jack, okay? I'm of the mind of, you should, if you see an opportunity, to be able to gain eyeballs that you otherwise wouldn't be able to gain, okay? But it should be additionally, not instead of, additional content to doing this consistently, right? This is where content creation gets hard, because you need a lot of it to be able to do it, right? If you can do this well, then you can do this. If you can't do this well, don't do this. Because I personally believe it distracts from this focus, right? For me, the issue with this is you're going to hit your demographical things, right? So I put out a video, I know it's roughly going to be hit by people in Salisbury because that's my following, right? The issue with trending is because you're in a trending sound, I'll use TikTok as the example, but Instagram, etc. is true too, you have no idea demographically where that's going to go. So you might get, let's just put a big number there, 100k views, okay? Wonderful, okay, but if we look at ROI on a business, and we ROI on time, what would you rather have? 100 views to 200 views on something like this, or 100k on a random video that's actually mostly spread across the Philippines, China, America, the UK, so on. What do you think?
300 real people rather than 100,000.
Because 100,000 looks good. Yeah, but 100,000 looks good, right?
Yeah.
But when we...
999,000 aren't going to become, or probably might not be close to your venue.
And that's why chasing virality, yes, it looks fun, yes, it looks sexy, but does it really do much for your business? I'd much rather have consistent of the right people at 200 to 300, maybe up to 1,000, but I know that each one of those views is going to potentially mean that I get more people sat in a room, I have more people to work with, I have more people I can help in my location, or in your...
How do you do that location on TikTok? Facebook's very simple, physical business.
So social media's changed, right? If I did this presentation or talk 3-4 years ago, I would only be talking about social graphs. Okay, I'll explain both in a second. But on this side, we've got social graphs. Okay, that's how everything worked before TikTok or Musical.ly arrived. Okay, here we have interest graphs that I'm definitely going to spell wrong, right? But the job of the team of two. So this was basically what TikTok created. Kind of their algorithm created it. It was in other places like Tumblr, etc., but like modernized and actually like popular. It was TikTok who did it. So what happens here is and this is why I said yesterday, following doesn't matter because we're now over here. But just for those who don't know, socially, what happens is I would follow someone. I would like, share, or comment on their post, right? This would send or say to the platform, hey, cool, this person likes and enjoyed this content. Cool. Okay, so the platform goes, we're going to show more of that to that person, right? So you followed me. Okay, cool. So that means you're telling to the platform, I like Colton's content. Can you show me more? Sick, right? Same with likes, same with shares, etc. Now, the bit where it got interesting is because when they started changing the weighting, you wanted to target different things. That constantly changes. There's no point me going into it because by the time we finish, it'll probably have changed. The main difference when TikTok launched a handful of years ago was instead of it being followers, like, shares, etc., they are kind of still important, which I'll explain in a minute, but the job here is Craig is going to open TikTok, and if he had previously never installed TikTok, it will just show him videos. And what it's trying to do is it's going to go, right, I'm going to show Craig a picture and a video of a dog. Cool. What does he do? Does he watch the video? Does he interact with the video? Does he like the video? Cool. Keep scrolling. You'll find that the more stuff you interact with, the more stuff you give watch time to, the more stuff you like, the more stuff you enjoy, you'll be shown more of it, right? So that's what an interest graph is, right?
So is that what the FYP basically is on Facebook
Yes.
and Instagram
Yeah.
Reels?
100%.
That's running that algorithm.
Yes.
But the main feed is still on the socials.
They're moving from this to this. The only place where this is still prominent is LinkedIn.
Really? So
Every-
the same people that use the old George for example, right? We post on that a lot. We can get the same 30 people comment like on that.
Yep.
All the time.
Mhm.
So they're still seeing it.
Because that's interest-based.
Not in an FYP of like TikTok.
Because they are interacting on the posts related to that location.
Right.
So they're signaling the platform to say, hey, I want to know more about this location.
So it's not as fully TikTok 100%.
The reality of socials, well, it will probably be in this line here for the rest of time, right? The future of socials is going to probably be, there's a debate at the moment, right? In the marketing space, in the etc. with Meta and so on. But my prediction, and probably the prediction which I think most people would agree with, would be in 2 to 3 years, you'll have two feeds. One that's like this, and one that's like this. Okay? So this would be your FYP, this would be for you to discover new content. And this is where, to an extent, trending would probably go into. So if you're trend jacking, following trending music, etc. Let's say you I'll use the example I used with Craig, dogs, cats, motorbikes, games, pubs, pick your topic, right? This is also where a concept called community talk came from, which was a specific hashtag around a specific thing. So when TikTok launched, everyone thought, oh, it's for dancing. Can I just get a quick show of hands? Who thought TikTok was for dancing?
And for kids as well.
Oh, for kids, yeah.
Yes.
That was the commonality, right? Everyone thought, oh, I'm going to go on TikTok and I'm going to do a... Thank God that people laughed at that. But the key is that's when it was Musical.ly. So very quick history lesson. TikTok is owned by a Chinese company known as ByteDance, who used to own an app called Musical.ly, where that was what the app was for. Lip syncing, dancing, etc. They bought this. They then launched it in China, did really, really well, and it was strong from an educational point of view. And then it moved to the West, and it became interest-based. But what they didn't realize was that interest-based would work so well, right? And that's why you're seeing, in the last couple of years, Instagram Reels launched, standalone, short-form feed that scrolls forever. Facebook launched, scrolls forever, so on, right? Even LinkedIn's now doing it. LinkedIn will probably have a video-only feed that's interest-based. The only post that will be social graph-based will most likely be carousel or image posts where you tag. So Johnny came to my event today. Thank you so much, Johnny. Do you want to tag you? Cool. How that quickly works, if you tag someone on socials, on a social graph, so this is mostly around LinkedIn, and they don't interact with it, it will be buried as a post, is the current conversation with the algorithm, right? And the reason for that is it stops people going, I'm going to tag whoever I want because I'm going to tag David Beckham in my post just to get more views on my post, right? Because unless David Beckham actually connects and actually, comments, likes, does something related to the post, it doesn't confirm that that actual connection happened. Because you need to remember, LinkedIn specifically is a recruiting platform. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed for you to get a job. Any questions on anything I've discussed so far? So the next thing I'll go into very briefly is creating a content ecosystem. I'll use mine as an example, and then we can go around the room and see where the holes are and see if I can help fill them. My content kind of evolves around, in most cases, 2 long-form pieces. So it could be an educational piece like this, or my podcast. So for this conversation, it'll be a podcast. So this is an hour to 45-minute conversation between myself and a guest of choice, right? So most cases it'll be talking about marketing, could be talking about trends, could be talking about very similar to this. But you might say, okay, well, who's going to sit and watch the 45-minute presentation? Quick show of hands, who would watch a 45-minute presentation?
It was interesting.
Okay.
It might have been booked by, I'm sure.
That's the key. Okay. So what most people do, and the reason why most people don't do it, is because they don't have the self-worth and self-belief to be able to put this 45-minute conversation out and it to get 2, 3, 10 views. What 95% of people should be doing is creating this, and then using it to fill their socials, right? I'll show you in a minute.
And that's when you get when you scroll through on YouTube.
Yeah. So that's called, that is basically about how you structure your short form, right? So very quickly, short form. I'll show you how to use AI to create 20 plus pieces from each one of these, because I do it, right? Every week I do it. For you specifically, you could talk, I'll use an event that you're running for an example, okay? You could talk about every single unique selling proposition and every single thing about the event that you think is really good, okay?
Like a Q&A almost.
Yeah, with your staff.
You get someone to ask you questions.
Okay.
What's it going to be? What's it going to do? Film it, chop it down, and then put it.
And you don't have to film it the way I would film it, with multiple cameras and pro audio and this and this. I literally mean, right, a phone on a tripod, looking at 2 people, right, stick person, wonderful, another stick person, you can tell I'm not an artist, right, 2 people having a chat, wonderful, okay? That will fill your socials, okay? Because it's this long piece here. Could be anything. Your long form piece could be, this is how to utilize 1 hour of content, especially if you're time poor, right, and you've only got an hour of content to deliver. You can film it once, then distribute it into short form. You're probably good for a month. And then if you want to hire an editor, like I do, I get a custom trailer made for each podcast. Some of you would have seen them. If not, go on my socials. There's one every week, right? And that is designed for the hook, which I showed you earlier, on the front of the podcast specifically. So that's meant to hook you in, show the best parts of the conversation, etc. if you come to the whole hour. But also it allows me to be on social media with short form. So by the nature of how the trailers are designed, I'm naturally going to get a higher retention chart, which will look something like this, which means people are watching the whole video, which in 95% of social media cases, if people watch up to 100% of a shorter video, less than a minute, it will then be served to multiple audiences, right? I'll go into that very quickly, but just quickly on this. Once you've got short form from this 1 hour, you can then do lots of stuff with it. You can pull out the audio and have it as a standalone audio podcast, right? You could also get it transcribed, and then using tools like ChatGPT, you can get it into blogs, etc., in your own tone, etc., right? And then also, you can then take that blog, turn it into 20 tweets, 15 tweets, right? Or standalone social media posts on their own. Hey, in this conversation, it doesn't even have to have the video, you can just take some pictures afterwards and say, in the conversation we'll be releasing next week, we talk about X, Y, Z, right? This is a very key example of hooks don't have to be anything. You need to do them to then see what works for your audience. Because what works for me is not going to work for you, and vice versa. So that's a social question. 95% of the time, socially, we watch videos in our breaks, when the kids are asleep, etc., right? So you don't want... Yeah, so or the telly's on or something else is on. So in a social scenario where you wouldn't necessarily want to blare out your reel, but you still want to know what's going on, right? And just to give you some numbers behind this, I re-edited some Christmas content that I did, I think about 4 years ago. I redistributed it on short form, one without captions, one with captions. The one without captions got 100 views. The one with captions got 1,100 views. It's the same video. Okay, that's a 10x difference in views with one change. And this is how I'm starting to test stuff. The one thing people get wrong with marketing all the time is they go, this is our ideal profile, this is the person we're trying to talk to, and I know what they like. Do you? You may have known what they liked 2 years ago, but is that what they're into now? Does your ideal profile change through time? Mine does. Personally, my content consumption habits and what I consume will change on a weekly basis. When I want to go really deep on AI, I'll be watching nothing but AI stuff. Okay? When I want to go really deep into content and delivery and how to do it, shift again. So on an interest graph, my feed is going to change dramatically across 2 weeks. On a social graph, I'll probably get some of the same content.
So on the
Look into the terms and conditions of TikTok, you'll be scared about how much it knows. Well, this was actually a big problem a couple of years ago where I was aware of it, where people would be watching a specific video. So I'll give an example where maybe it's a motivational video or maybe they're feeling a bit sad, etc. They're watching something that may be a bit sad. And what the TikTok algorithm did, and they got in a lot of trouble for this, but they would then start feeding more and more, and you would go down this loop of negativity, right? I don't want to go into detail on it today, but it's the same with the quote, Redfield spear, right? You are fed what you watch. So people are like, oh my God, my TikTok's so annoying because it only shows me X, Y, Z. I'm like, okay, log out, reinstall the app, watch stuff that you don't want, so watch the stuff you want, and then the algorithm will catch up. Or just when you're on the socials, just stop consuming and interacting with the stuff you don't want to see more of.
Or search what you do want to see.
Yeah, or manually go in and search, I want to see pretty kittens. I want to see dogs, I want to see positivity, I want to see quotes, I want to see etc. To start, put your video everywhere. Put your blog everywhere. Put your piece of content everywhere the same way. Because the first thing you need to get into the habit of is doing content consistently and getting consistent, right? Because that's where the results will come from.
And concentrating on video.
I focus on video because it's my best, building off Emily's point, it's my best way of communicating, and it's what I will also consume, and also I know the power of being able to leverage it because I can use it a million ways. Some people say, I don't want to be on video. Okay, that's okay, don't be on video then. But if you're a good writer, then write. Okay? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The content quality will always rise to the top if you're A, consistent, B, talking to your target demographic, and C, adding actual value. Not fluff, not this looked nice, this was wonderful. The goal for me today is to give you as much valuable the stuff you want to learn as much as possible. That's it. That's my only objective today. Very quickly on how like algorithms work in most cases. This is a video algorithm, but the same will be true in blogs, the same will be true in articles, and you can swap the words. So whenever I say video, there is a similar algorithm for every other form of content and will work very similar to these principles. Okay? So when you post a video, I'll use Instagram Reels, for example. This is your video. Okay? The first thing it does is it will send it to, these numbers are rough because they change every week, right? And we actually don't really know. It's roughly about 10%, maybe lower, maybe 5 sometimes, of your audience, okay? Now, depending on what happens will then depend on if you get a new audience or not, right? So in most cases, if, let's say this video is, I don't know, 30 seconds, okay? If someone watches up to 25 seconds of that video in this seed audience, so this is called a seed audience. The job of a seed audience is to tell the algorithm, because it doesn't know what this, all it knows is you uploaded a video. Wonderful, it can see what you said in it, because it can pull the transcript, etc. It doesn't really know what the video is, it just knows you put a video out. Sick. So what it does is it sends it to the 5 to 10% of an initial audience that it believes will enjoy this piece of content from what it learned from the title, the media data, or the post, depending on what platform you're on, and then what's said in the video. And then depending on what happens with things like watch time, likes, a key one on Instagram, especially right now, if you save or share it, because this is where understanding each platform is really important. So Instagram specifically is designed for people to share videos around, share posts around, because it's a communication platform. It wants people to communicate with each other on it, not just consume content, but have content as part of the ecosystem, so that, oh, I really like this video, so I'm going to send it to Paul, right? That's what the algorithm wants me to do. So sharing / saving, coming back later. And depending on how well these combinations, and the weighting changes, that's why I'm not focusing on specific weighting, but the weighting will change. Depending on what happens will then change how much of an audience, what that audience is, and what the size of the audience is. So when things go viral, what's happening is this. So it's going, initial post, okay, cool, it did well. Sick. All right, first audience did really well. Then there'll be a bit of a plateau, maybe for half an hour, maybe 30 minutes. Then another one. Did it do well again? If so, and so on. And eventually, it won't have a good reaction. And that's when it will stop. But if you can keep that loop, so there was a trend a little bit ago on TikTok where it would be a 2-second video with a load of text on it. Why do you think people did that? They were farming watch time. Yeah. Because it's a 2-second video. So TikTok was going, is people who watch this video in that seed audience watching the whole video? Because it's 2 seconds. But to read it, you need about 15 seconds. So actually, the percentage watched on that video was close to 500%. So TikTok went, oh my God, 500%? So people are watching this video 5 times? Cool, we'll send it to loads of people. Now, they got on top of it because they realized that was the game. But for a long time, it showed a very clear example of how your seed audience can snowball your views. And it will copy the audience. Because every single algorithm wants to understand and wants... Okay, no, I'll ask you. Before I tell you, I'll ask you. What do you think the job of an algorithm is?
To keep people on social media. For example.
What does every single social media platform want?
Eyes on it.
How do they make money? So the sin, you could say, is taking people off platform. Because Instagram doesn't make money if you send them off platform. If you send them to YouTube, you're sending them to a competitor. That's why people started getting quite clever with their link in bios, because link in bio became a term which TikTok itself would suppress, because it was sending people to the website. For a marketing point of view, that's what we want to do, right? We want to send them to a landing page, we want to send them to a YouTube channel, we want to send them somewhere else off-site so we can potentially sell to them or retarget them or etc. or get their email so we can then email market it to them, etc. But purely from how does it perform point of view, and this is what I said at the beginning, where you need to start really delving into your content and really start working out, okay, so this one's going to be a very value-led piece, this one's going to be trend, this one's going to be for this purpose. And it can be overwhelming, but hopefully you're just going to get some ideas from today. If you can get some videos, and this is why done is better than perfect, and posting a lot is powerful because you can work out what happens. To quote Gary Vaynerchuk from his new book, you should market to get better at marketing. Right? So it's not about I'm going to market because I know what I'm doing. It's the market will tell me in views, reactions, shares, sales, etc. what's working. So I'll give you an example. A phone video over-indexed than a professional video in most cases for me. I follow the same format, hook, content, call to action, but because I story told in the video and it felt more real, it got, I think, 4 times more views than my average. I think it's on like 1,300 now, because I told a clear story. So for those people who are like, I don't have a camera, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have all the kit, I can't create content. Who doesn't own a phone in this room? You all own a phone, right? So then you don't have an excuse. Because especially if you create it in-app, you can outperform because there'll be a small performance bonus. For example, on Instagram at the moment, they launched their own editor. It's called Edits. It gives you the ability to edit in the same way I can edit with pro software, and deeper analytical data on every single reel you've ever posted purely through the app that you cannot get through Instagram. So for that reason alone, you should download it, because then you can see your click-through rate, then you can see your percentage of your seed audience, and then you can tweak stuff, and you can tweak the hooks, you can tweak that first line, you can tweak your packaging. The same when it comes to your first line of your actual copy for this, because if someone misses the video and you don't have captions on it, you might be able to re-engage them by getting a captivating headline. So if you're doing multiple kinds of content, you can learn from... Yeah. Because you can then re-engage people. Something that also people worry about is, I posted a video and it only got 20 views. Okay. Well, what's happening when you first post a video for the first 24 hours, bless you, is it's only showing it to your seed audience. So on average, it will take 48 hours or so before you really start seeing something pump. Unless you're trend jacking, that's a bit different. But on the structured content we talked about at the beginning, it will take roughly about 24 hours before the algorithm really understands it. The more content you feed the algorithm, the more it's going to understand what you do and what audience is going to connect with the content you're creating. Does that make sense?
So what stage do you start paying for it then? So at the minute
You don't need to, nothing I've talked about today is paid ads.
I know, that's what I'm trying to think.
If you want to do paid ads, you can follow all of these principles, and what I'd recommend you do very quickly for those who are interested in doing paid ads, you should post a load of content, see what does best in regards to views, retraction, etc., and then take the best performing pieces of content and then amplify them with ads. Because then you don't have a question mark on whether the creative or the video or the blog or the post, etc., is actually going to do well or not, because you already know, because it did well organically. So that way you're not wasting money on amplifying bad creative, because you know that it's going to be good, because you've already tested it organically. Does that help?
Yeah, no,
But if
10,000 people saw it organically, it goes to millions if you pay for 10.
Yeah. But the key there is to understand that is that 10,000 the 10,000 that you want? Moving back to my original analogy of, do you want 100,000 or do you want 10,000 or 1,000? If the metrics align, as in you've got 10,000 of the right people, absolutely you should pour money on it.
That's the hard bit.
Because you've already done it. You already know it works with the target sector that you're trying to talk to. So of course you know. And then it's just taking the guesswork out of paid ads. Yeah, you should tweak the copy, you should tweak the text that goes next to it, maybe add a stronger call to action on the end to be a bit more salesy if you're going to, or maybe tweak the hook slightly, or tweak the video very slightly. But you know the bulk of the content's going to work for creative because it's already worked organically.